Thank you, Mr. Mason. I want to start where you have left this afternoon, because we had a hearing before the Energy Committee just a couple weeks ago about how the federal government should respond in a low price environment such as what we are experiencing now. You have outlined some of what you have described as kind of the perverse outcomes and outcomes that one might not expect in a low price environment. But I think you have outlined well that it's not just the price that you need to look to, it is the interest rates as well, and that BOEM should respond now, taking advantage of the fact that we are in this environment. Director Hopper, let me ask you to respond to that, because I think what Mr. Mason has outlined is very important, that when we withhold the leases particularly at this time, you do constrain economic opportunity. How do you respond within BOEM to what he has outlined here this afternoon?
Thank you for that question. So I would point to two things. One is that we, under our current lease plan, as we are in a low oil price environment at the moment, we are continuing with the lease sales in the Gulf of Mexico. And if you look at the trajectory over the last few years, the amount of acreage we're offering is consistent, but the number of leases that are being bid on by companies has declined steadily. And I think that speaks to kind of the economic realities that companies are facing in this low oil price environment. And so I think I would argue that it's not just an interest rate, but it's sort of the available capital that those companies have. And then in our plan for the next 5-year program, we do look at different price scenarios. So we don't make any assumption about what the oil price will be. We look at $40, $100, and $160 barrel prices, sort of game out different scenarios that would happen. And I think that kind of sensitivity analysis addresses some of his concerns about sort of locking us into any particular price point.
Well, in recognizing the long lead times that it takes, particularly in a place like the Arctic, I think we recognize that if you had Arctic lease sales being held today, that Americans don't see the benefit from that oil for years, considerable years from where we are. So again, recognizing what you have outlined, Mr. Mason, in terms of the multiple factors that are at play there, I would like to think that it is not a low price environment that would drive some of the decisions coming out of BOEM. Director Hopper, you know that my top priority for the 17 through 22 plan has been to maintain the 3 Alaska sales that BOEM has proposed. The entire Alaska delegation has submitted a letter to you. Governor Walker has joined in the support, as well as the vast majority of Alaskans. Now, you mentioned in your opening comments that part of the rationale for removing the Atlantic sale was opposition from some coastal communities and citizens. You have also outlined in your statement the meetings that you have attended with folks up in the states, in various communities. How would you describe the views of most Alaskans and the Alaska state government in terms of supporting or opposing lease sales in the OCS right now?
I'll start with the second half of your question, because I think it's a little simpler. The meeting with your governor and your lieutenant governor, and obviously reading the letters from you, I would say there's consistent support to keep the Alaska sales in the next 5-year plan. In my meetings with, I was on the North Slope would say there was a real variety of opinion. I did not leave with one consensus opinion. There were folks like the mayor who were very articulate in their support for keeping offshore oil and gas development in the next 5-year plan. There were others who were equally articulate and passionate about removing those sales. And so I think it is a much more complicated and nuanced conversation than some might appreciate.
And you are, I'm assuming you are aware of the many public opinion polls that have been conducted, including one from 2014 that show more than 70% of Alaskans support development within our region of the OCS. So it's not just going to specific communities
Right.
and talking to a few key individuals, but the broader statewide support for advancement of these sales in the Arctic OCS.
Yes, Chair, and I'm aware of that. Thank you.
So I guess the bigger question is whether you will treat that lack of local opposition and the overwhelming support of Alaskans in favor of development as a reason to retain the 3 Alaska OCS sales in the final program.
I think, Chairman, it would be premature to make any statement about what the fate of those Alaska sales in the final program. The Secretary, as I mentioned, as you know, she has several factors that she has to consider. The position of the state government is one of them. The other uses of the ocean is another important one, which is where some of the local input comes in. And so she will take those as well as the other statutory factors in her decision.
Well, and I appreciate you saying that. I did happen to notice that today, as you were meeting with a group of Alaskans and hopefully a group that I'm going to be visiting with very shortly, but you tweeted a picture out of them, which I don't have any problem with that, but you tweet in it that it was you clearly outlined that they are opposed to drilling in the Arctic. And I looked at it and it said, it doesn't necessarily show me that there's impartiality within BOEM. I looked at it and said, how do we not conclude that the die is already cast and that your agency has already decided what it is that you're going to be doing?
Well, I didn't write that tweet, but I am familiar with it. I'm sorry if you took that impression from it. Our agency tweets a lot of pictures from our meetings. We think it's a good way to represent the many stakeholders that we visit with.
Have you or your office tweeted a picture after a meeting with Alaskans who actually support drilling in the Arctic?
We certainly have tweeted many pictures from all of our public meetings, and there were certainly Alaskans who were very supportive of oil and gas. So I wouldn't want to opine, who exactly is in the photos, but we certainly have tweeted a variety of stakeholders that we've met with.
I want to get to my colleague from Louisiana here, and I looked at it and I thought, this would appear to me that you're not acting with the level of impartiality that we expect the agency to do. Senator Cassidy.